So we've invited some other folks to join us up here on the stage. And so let me do this. I'll introduce you one at a time. I'll just go from this end. And then if you would say just a few things about yourself and your company. So why don't we start with Colin Masson.
Okay. Do I use this?
Yep,
Yes.
please.
It's on.
Okay. Colin Masson. I'm with Microsoft. Microsoft's mission is to really enable people and organizations to achieve more. And I think Thomas was a great ambassador because I think I'd qualify that. It's really doing that intelligently. So it's really not just throwing money at it. I think you all know Microsoft and where we come from. So a lot of what I'm engaged in right now, I'm with Cloud and Enterprise team. So we're starting to combine Internet of Things, data, our business apps and processes, and working with a partner ecosystem to kind of try and reimagine businesses. And I like to think we're reimagining manufacturing. So how do you really think about a fundamental transformation? So I know we're all talking about the fourth industrial revolution. I think it's about business process more than it is about shop floor automation. It's really about rethinking your business. And that's kind of where I come from on that topic. And I know we're going to have some great conversation here, but kind of just to tee up where I'll come at this whole conversation from. It's really kind of reimagining manufacturing and trying to do things smarter and not just get bogged down in, hey, we're going to make shop floor manufacturing automate more, and that's what it's all about. I think the revolution is really about putting the customer at the center of this whole transformation.
Okay, thanks, Colin. Well, I see we were also clever enough, my panelists, to line up according to the way the pictures are on the screen, so that makes it easier for all of us to keep track. Go ahead.
Hi, is this on? Okay, hi, I'm Kevin Starr. I'm with ABB. I work in the advanced services segment of process automation and have for nearly 30 years. And we've been taking data and converting it to information so that we can try to get the right people with the right service at the right time so that we can help our clients hit their production quality or cost to produce targets.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Pyatt. I'm with the SAP Global Oil and Gas Practice and responsible for operational excellence. And so I'm coming at this a little from a process industries perspective and an energy perspective. But at SAP, we're really working towards leveraging the ERP platform we're known for to really helping our customers move to more of a digital energy transformation. And what does that mean when you look at overall operations? What does that mean when you're collapsing value chains and connecting ecosystems together that traditionally have been a manual process that's not really been effective in communicating and delivering information back to decision makers? And so for us, it's about business process improvement. I'll say improving decisions at the point of work execution. That's up and down the value chain. And then actually driving transformation and disruption to existing processes so that you can collapse the value chain and actually achieve better cycle times. So that's kind of what we're working on from an energy standpoint in SAP.
And John Trainer from C Labs. We're a small company based in Seattle, Washington, although most of our customers, oddly enough, are in Europe, primarily in Germany, which is really a hotbed of industrial automation, Industry 4.0, and industrial Internet of Things. And much of what we've heard today, I think, is interesting and could apply to what you might be doing on a daily basis if you can actually get the data. And so we provide a very unique set of software tools to allow you to get local and remote access to data so that you can then have machines intelligently connect and talk to one another and then feed all of that data into some of the other systems that we've heard and talked about so that you can continue to iterate and improve the process. And in many cases in industrial automation, the challenge, because there's a division between OT and IT, is about being able to get that data in a way that can be managed by IT, that is not going to keep the CIO awake at night, and really then allows you to do the types of things that we've talked about. But really the first step is getting that data and C-Labs provides that type of connectivity for a variety of different industrial systems and protocols.
Okay, thank you, John. So the way we'd like to organize this is we'd love to take some questions from the audience. We've got a microphone here for anybody who's interested in posing a question. So if you've got a question right off the bat, we're ready to take it. Otherwise, I've got a couple of questions for these panelists. Here we are right here.
Great presentation, Thomas. So
Thank you.
you talked about simulation.
Yes.
And it's clear that you're making changes to the car. I was just wondering what you're doing with the driver. What kind of feedback are they getting from these simulations? And whether you guys have, how critical is the setup of the car and the match it gives to the driver, his capabilities?
You're absolutely right. There is a very big correlation between the driver skills and what we call not every driver is able to access the performance of a car because it's the skills of the driver. It's his nature, how he feels the car. So I want to say again, Michael Schumacher was an excellent guy in giving feedback. So for us, the driver is still one of the most important feedback tools we are getting about how the car performs, how he feels the car. Does he understeer? Does he oversteer? What does he feel? And we are using simulation for this as well. So it's not only the data we are using the feedback of the driver, in fact, much more, because at the end of the day, he's the guy who is able to extract performance out of the product. And for us, it's essential. So when you look at how we build up drivers, so we have a Young Drivers Academy, it's one of the things we try to in fact build into the drivers that they are able to give technical feedback. So the more knowledge they have and the more savvy they are in technology and physics, in fact, a little bit, the better for us because it's one of the great tools, especially when we race on a Friday practice. And you would be surprised, we have two different drivers, two identical cars, but the setup is very, very different because it's up to the preference of the driver, how he drives the car.
If I could chime in on that. What's interesting with the question is it's very similar to how our operators interface with our automation equipment in an industrial plant. There's been a trend to wait for the operators to tell our production or engineering when it's broken. And then we have a failure, and then we are in reaction time. And so what I've seen is we're expecting our operators to know how these systems should work, and they forget how to drive the car. And so that's one of the things we're introducing is how do we allow our operators to operate and then our automation equipment to be transparent. So that's interesting how you're dealing with that in the racing world.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on a sort of similar vein, what we've started to do is kind of combine product telemetry that we're getting through IoT, but then we also get sentiment analysis. So it obviously depends what kind of product you have. I mean, B2B, maybe not as much, but when we're talking a lot with consumer products companies, they get a lot of sentiment expressed out there on various social channels. So they bring that in, but then we've also got the classic call center, right? And so we're starting to combine all these different sets of data. So we're getting that customer call. How many times did they call in and complain? Or we'll look through the service ticket history. So there is a tendency to think it all has to come from sensors, but really it's combining all of those things to get that insight. And so we can use digital technologies now to analyze the service history, look at that, look for any patterns, combine it with the telemetry we're getting from the car, and sometimes they don't agree, right? The customer's complaining about something, but we can look at the product telemetry and see that they don't even use that feature on the product. So there's something not quite there. So it's kind of interesting when you combine all of those different sources of data.
Yeah, and same here. If you think about how to improve decision making, you talked about operations. It kind of clicked with me. Sorry, but it's the guys there were. How can we build more intelligence into the system to actually drive better decision making by the operator, and really give him more visibility and awareness to a failure point or a notification alert before something fails. So we can actually take advantage of that, fix it, refurbish it, so we can keep the uptime at a maximum. But that's the kind of solutions we're working on with right now with our customers, using the HANA platform and leveraging other tools outside the SAP ecosystem, frankly. There's a number of tools that our partners offer, and we leverage those tools as well. And so it's trying to take advantage of the investments you've made as customers and the products you're out there that you want to see leveraged, and bring that into the HANA platform and combine it for better decision support and immediate response. So we're working on those kind of projects.
Yeah, I think, though, like the driver in the car, it's important that the operator and people in plants be engaged with things, because there's, I think, a tendency that people say, oh, well, we'll just suck all this data up, and then we'll do some smart analytics in the cloud or something, and then we'll tell people how to do things better. And then we forget that when we have sensors picking up things on machines, and we see that there's an anomaly at 2:30 in the afternoon, and then we find out it was just because Joe put his toolbox on the top of a piece of the equipment, and so the vibration sensors gave us different readings. And so giving that feedback back to operators and giving them that local access to data keeps people in the loop, and also when you're implementing these systems, keeps people engaged, and so that you don't have a workforce that sees all of this, IoT newness and this platform is something that they need to be worried about because somebody else is making the decision someplace else, but it actually can be a tool to help them be more engaged as well. Just like a driver in a car getting more feedback about how the car is performing and he's using the car, and knowing those things can make that person a better driver. The same thing for people who are operators in plants.
Okay, good. Well, I like there's kind of a common theme here I see of really having a much broader context for thinking about the problem and the solution. And that's, I think, part of the big payoff.
Yeah, I'm curious what a lot of these companies are going to look like 10, 20 years ago down the road. We're seeing a company that maybe made equipment like a pump or something historically is now making smart devices and having the capabilities to move into some of the control aspects. And we're seeing some of the control providers being able to do some of the cloud computing aspects. And the archetypal lines among all these things are kind of blurring. So how do you see that kind of shifting? Who's going to partner up with who? And is it going to be more of a one-stop shop solution for everything? Or how's this kind of going to happen?
Well, there's a great question. Who wants to tackle that one
Okay, can I
first?
jump in on this one? All right. Well, that's kind of why I sort of started off with reimagining manufacturing, because I think we've all got used to kind of the product-centric model. We come up with a really well-engineered, and you still have to do that, but more and more, and I think most of us probably are having similar conversations, more and more we're talking about new business models. Obvious one is kind of what I like to call the servitization of manufacturing, and you can look it up on Wikipedia. It's a real word, right? So it is kind of thinking about how do I add services, and it's not just around the product. So obviously predictive maintenance, we all talk about that. It's not new. What is new is that if I'm an industrial equipment manufacturer or consumer goods manufacturer, or I'll let you do the process ones, but kind of connected car, they're all distributed assets that maybe we didn't think about the customer experience, or we didn't think about how we could offer that service level contract. There's lots of businesses that still haven't done that basic first step. But then I talk with this one might be in your turf, kind of an eco lab who used to do cleaning chemicals, but now, they're selling cleaning services or wastewater treatment facilities. We all know the kind of GE example with the engine hours. I mean, you can, almost every company that I'm talking to now is trying to work out what is that scenario or that model where I can compete on a different basis, where it's not just cost or quality and I'm kind of driving down that cost curve. So service is a great place because that's now I'm selling a service contract. So I get that one, but I think there's the customer experience that a lot of us are overlooking. Is it's not just sell them a service contract, change the way they experience the product. And you can get a lot of insight once that product is out there and you're monitoring it. So you can also get to what is the next generation of that product, which I'm sure will come up in another question.
Okay.
One of the things that we've noticed, and I think in everyone's life, if you look at your phone, just think a few years ago, we didn't have these. Now everybody here has one. The industrial world typically lags behind the private world 10 to 15 years. So think about where we were when, I'm not going to put my Visa card on the internet. That's not safe. That's where we were 10 or 15, 20 years ago. Now how many have online banking? And if we look at our systems and our control systems, and when it wasn't that long ago, we had single loop controllers on a wall controlling a plant. Now we have IT and OT and platforms, and we have different vintages of systems. So as we're moving into the future, the connection points with our assets so that we can be proactive in troubleshooting, so we know what to do, what to fix, when to fix, and how to fix it, so that we can stop downtime. I really enjoyed his talk on racing. Imagine the car having a failure on the back half of the lap. He's done. Now with this information that he's getting, he can predict, and in many cases, that there is a failure, schedule that at the next pit stop, and stay in the race. To me, that's where we're going, and that's the exciting part about this Industrial Revolution 4.0.
I think there is a bit of a land grab, though, amongst a lot of vendors who say, oh, I want to control that, or I want to have that data, or I want you to sort of do all your processing with me. And I think that may be the case for the next several years, but long term, there has to be interoperability, right? We wouldn't imagine sort of a consumer world in which, certain computers or phones only talk to certain websites, right? There has to be standards and things that emerge to allow all of these things to talk to one another. It's not clear how that's going to sort out, but it is certainly going to be exciting for the next few years as people try to stake a position.
I think that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like, is there sort of we're talking about IIoT convergence, but is there a convergence as to what your respective companies are going to kind of say their core competencies are over the next couple of years? It's like, oh, we could do that, we could do that, we could do that.
Well, I think you're going to have to go back to where you come from. I mean, SAP has been known for business process management. We're really focused on that. And if you look at the question you asked about suppliers and the integration of suppliers in an ecosystem, much like Thomas presented today, it becomes more of a collaborative discussion around how you can improve process efficiency and co-innovation. And so for us, it's around those things that really help drive it. And all the tools of technology feed that process, right? So yes, to answer your question, we are going to state where we're going. We're making investments today to bring suppliers together in an ecosystem to really drive more innovation and creation. We've actually got pilots, and we're launching a product called Asset Intelligence Network in March. And that's really driving a lot of the things that we're talking about here. We're bringing together ecosystem information, manufacturing data, service parts data to feed back into the base applications we drive and have. And then as we add additional functional requirements from customers, they'll become partnerships like with Microsoft, with other key providers that actually can contribute to the overall process and enhance and extend the solution that customers invest in. So I think you're going to see people take a stand, make some investments, offer some different solutions, and ultimately, like he was saying, it's about choice and having options and having some industry standard capabilities to integrate with that. We're doing that too. And so you got to have an open, almost an open platform, and we are going to have an open, we joined the industry standard Mimosa Open O&M again to drive a non-SAP solution interface to the network that we've created. And so that's a way that we're going to be integrating that. And this is one of the many standards we'll be adding to that when we start applying this all across manufacturing. And oil and gas happens to be the lead industry doing that. So it's that's an example of how this whole transformation is taking place and how we're trying to collapse the value chain, bring greater value and visibility. But then it comes back to you, the customer, to say, where do you start? So and that's what we're trying to work with our customers on today, is help them identify how to make that migration.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
I actually wanted to ask you a question. I wasn't sure whether you were really asking about us, right, as vendors in the space, or you're asking about manufacturers and how they're going to change their business models. Do you just want to clarify both? Right.
It's the manufacturers are everyone's moving one step forward, right? I mean, the manufacturers are moving from, not, like you said, not just making a piece of equipment, but a piece of equipment that they can use into a bigger system and kind of infringing on what someone else used to do. It's just kind of everything ripple effect up the chain. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you got both perspectives there. So
Just to elaborate on one of the things that I'm in the process sector, so I look at continuous process, loop performance, batch, and we have to, not very rarely does everybody have an ABB system, and even with ABB we have 7 different platforms. So we had to figure out a solution that was vendor neutral. And OPC is a standard that came out, OLA for process control and automation. So that's a great. Most of the systems today, that just comes with it. And the older legacy systems, then we have built what we call data sockets that will convert it to a protocol that we could then leverage our expertise. So that's how I can see in the near future is we have a solution that is data source independent, and then we have sockets that allow the different sources to funnel into that KPI calculation.
Okay, I think we have time for one, possibly two, but let's say one more question.
All right, this one's for Thomas. On your Formula One race car, you have control and sensing system on CAN bus with communications on board, and you also have wireless telemetry going back to your monitoring operations networks. How do you protect from a cybersecurity standpoint the threats to the control systems on the car? Because obviously someone hacking into the car would be a problem.
Yeah, we are very safe because obviously it's an isolated circuit, so there is our data go not directly to us, so our data go first to the FIA, which scrutinize the data that we are not cheating, because obviously you could more or less remotely control the car, which is forbidden. So the data go first to the FIA, it runs through their system, and then only comes to us, and they give us a little bit of data from the other team in terms of GPS location, where we back calculate again their speed, their location, we map it graphically. We never had any incidents in terms of hacking from an outsider. We have quite some security issues at the factory, because obviously our IP is the drawing, and there was recently an issue with Ferrari where Ferrari got sued for stealing IP. So we have this kind of threat. So we have IP security issue in terms of the firewall. We secure very much. If you work for us, you will sign in your contract that we are allowed to read all your mails. You cannot send anything from the computer. It's all locked down. So we are very strict on this side. On the track side, it's a very isolated system where we are dependent on the FIA. We are a part of the FIA network which they secure. But on off-track side, we are very keen on cybersecurity, and we do a lot. And this, to be honest, our conclusion is if somebody wants to hack you, they will be able to hack you. It's more how you deal when it happens and how you detect it. Because I think I don't know how this gentleman thinks, but I think it's common sense at the moment, especially if a state is involved and they want to hack you, they will definitely be able to hack you. So you need to be able to deal with the incidents when it happens and how you deal with it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. And please join me in thanking Thomas and the rest of our panelists. Thank you.
And Thomas, I think we'll be here for the next half an hour or so if you want to ask questions.
Okay, that's good. And please remember to give us some feedback via the app. Thank you.